We all just expect our digital world to, well, to work. But have you ever stopped to think about what's really holding it all together? What's the invisible force that keeps everything from crashing down? Well, today we're talking about non-functional testing, the true unsung hero that makes sure your apps are fast, your data is safe, and your digital life runs smoothly. Okay, so let's start with a problem that I guarantee every single one of us has dealt with. You've got an app or a website, and on the surface, it looks perfect. All the buttons are there, the features seem to work, and then at the absolute worst possible moment, it just dies on you. It's just so frustrating, right? It makes you ask the question, why? Why do these apps that seem totally fine 1 minute just completely fall apart when you actually need them? Oh, man, we have all been there. You finally got those sneakers in your cart, you go to click buy, and the website crashes. Or you're trying to make a really important money transfer, and the banking app just gives you that dreaded spinning wheel. And look, these things aren't just a little annoying. Sometimes they have some serious, real-world consequences. So what's the deal? The answer really comes down to understanding that there are two totally different sides to making sure software is any good. You can almost think of them as two different sides of the same coin. So on one side, you have functional testing. This part is pretty straightforward. It asks, what does the app do? Does the login button actually log you in? Can you add something to your cart? It's a simple yes or no. But then you have non-functional testing. This is where it gets way more interesting. It asks, how well does it do it? Sure, the login button works, but can 1,000 people log in at the exact same time? Is the payment process actually secure from hackers? See, this isn't about features. It's about all those hidden qualities that make a piece of software actually usable. And that's really what non-functional testing is all about. It's the process of evaluating all of those critical how well qualities. We're talking performance, security, reliability, everything that separates an app that just kind of works from an app that's actually great. Now, this isn't just one single kind of test. It's actually more like a whole collection of different families of tests, and each one is zeroed in on a different piece of the quality puzzle. We can basically break this huge world down into three core families. First, you've got performance. This is all about speed and stability, especially under pressure. Then there's security, which is like the digital bodyguard protecting your personal data. And finally, you have usability and reliability, which makes sure the app is easy to use and won't just randomly crash on you. So let's dive into that first one, performance. The main goal here is pretty simple. You're trying to answer a few key questions before anyone ever gets to use the app. Is it fast? Does it feel responsive? And probably most importantly, is it going to fall over and die when thousands of people start using it all at once? Now, inside performance testing, there are two key ideas. The first one is called load testing. Think of this like a fire drill. You're simulating what you expect to happen on a really busy day, like a Black Friday sale. But then there's stress testing. This is where you try to break things on purpose. The goal is to push the system way beyond its limits to find out exactly where that breaking point is. It's like asking, what happens if 10 times more people show up than we planned for? Next up, the security family. And this one is a huge deal. This is the critical work that keeps us all from ending up in those scary headlines about data breaches. Testers here literally learn to think like hackers, trying to find all the weak spots and holes so they can get patched up before the bad guys find them. And that brings us to our third family, usability and reliability. Because let's be honest, an app can be super fast and super secure, but if it's confusing and a pain to use, who's going to stick around? This kind of testing makes sure the software is intuitive and dependable day in and day out. So you might be thinking, okay, if all this testing is happening, why do things still go wrong? Well, it turns out that getting non-functional testing right is incredibly, incredibly difficult. And that brings us to some of the hidden challenges. First off, you have to turn a vague human request into a hard number. When someone says, the app needs to be fast, what does that even mean? Testers have to translate that into something measurable, like it has to respond in under 3 seconds with 100 people using it at once. Then you have to build a whole separate environment that perfectly copies the real world, which is a massive technical challenge. And finally, you need data, a ton of realistic data, because testing with simple, clean data just won't show you how the system will act under real pressure. And all of that difficulty leads us to the core problem, which some research from a group called SynTef just nails perfectly. Everybody knows this testing is important. But Because it's so complicated and expensive when there's a tight deadline or the budget gets squeezed, well, you can guess what's often the first thing that gets pushed aside. But here's the thing. Despite all those challenges, the work that gets done here is honestly nothing short of heroic. This is the invisible foundation that our entire digital lives are built on. So, just how deep does this rabbit hole go? How many different types of non-functional tests do you think actually exist? Take a guess. 10? Maybe 20? The actual number is 51. Yep, you heard that right. 51. According to a guide from a company called TestRail, there are at least that many known types. And it covers the whole shebang, from accessibility testing, making sure people with disabilities can use the software, all the way to something called volume testing, which checks how a system handles absolutely enormous amounts of data. And that's really the point of all this. Every single time your banking app just works, or a website handles a huge rush of traffic without even blinking, it's not an accident. It's because of this invisible, incredibly difficult, and painstaking work that someone did behind the scenes. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you're trying to buy tickets for a huge concert right when they go on sale, and the website doesn't crash, just for a second, will you see it? Will you see that invisible effort, that complex planning, and the true unsung hero that made it all possible?